forget his name to kind of embarrass, but because he's such a great guy, he's been very adamantly opposed to the U.S. and Canadian and Argentinian positions that don't want consumers to know what is in foods, whether it's GM or not. So the EC actually deserves a lot of credit there. They've held the line really hard and fast, and they've been very vocal about it as well. Yes, someone.
Just a point of curiosity, is there any members of Board BIA or the HSC or any doctors or anybody else who would? We have one. Just that seems to be extremely important information.
He wants to ask a question while you're at it.
For the benefit of the audience, could you...
Pardon?
For the benefit of the audience, could you go into what the benefit of having an avian flu shot to cure your swine flu would be?
Well, I don't think there would be any advantage to having an avian flu shot to avoid the swine flu. There wouldn't be. There'd be a nullity. In fact, there's no advantage to having a swine flu shot or jab to avoid the swine flu because it'll already have mutated by the time you get the shot. So why even have a swine flu shot? It's already mutated.
So why are the government doing that then?
Well, their buddies in the pharmaceutical industry can make a load of money. It's also part of a control mechanism. It gets people into a fear mode. When people are in a fear mode, they can be controlled better or easily. They get used to giving up their freedoms. And quite frankly, it'll make a lot of people sick. That also feeds into the drug industry's profits. So, why not?
So,
Yes.
Well, basically the swine flu shot that may or may not be imposed will become self-ban here.
Will become what?
Which may or may not be imposed.
There's a microphone.
The swine flu shot, which may be introduced here, may be mandatory, may not be mandatory, depending on protest, will be self-ban.
Will be what?
The drug called self-ban.
Oh, that's
And
the name.
self-ban
Okay.
is an avian flu shot.
Okay, well, you were asking a
European
rhetorical
Medicines
question.
Agency. Yeah, of course. European Medicines
I thought you were
Agency.
selling flu vaccines.
No, definitely not selling vaccines. I was really surprised there's only one doctor here. This is a disgrace. The people behind this should go to jail.
Well, they probably should.
And we're first. I don't think that'll be happening. There's somebody behind your head.
Is there anyone else? Oh, yes. Okay.
Sorry, I just wanted to clear a point. What you're saying is true. Codex is going to reduce the concentration of vitamins in food supplements is going to be available here after the 21st of December.
Oh, well, that's the EU Food Supplements Directive. That's not Codex that's doing that. That's where, if you ever hear, it has nothing to do with Codex directly, tenuously at best it has a connection, but that's a real tenuous connection. It's totally, wholly EU Food Supplements Directive. If you ever hear anyone say that Codex is going into effect December 31, 2009, you know they're an idiot, they don't know what they're talking about. Stop reading any of their material, go elsewhere for your information because you're getting the facts wrong right there. Now, if they're saying it's from the European Union Food Supplements Directive, then those people can be believed.
You're just saying that it would be, as it's a trade organization, use this as a means of settling trade disputes that the EU
No,
is going to
no. No, they will not be using it as a means to settle trade disputes. That is not true. The Codex guidelines are slated to, who knows what the process actually, the timetable actually will be, but are slated to be completed. That is, the guidelines have been adopted, but the blanks have to be filled in, and that will happen somewhere between 2011 at the absolute earliest to 2013. And even then, it will take some time to implement. But always keep in mind, it's not one guideline or anything. There are a whole slew of them, some of which were adopted 10 years ago. And others are in the process of being adopted. Others are just, a gleam in the inventor's eye. And, will be launched next year or this year or whatever. So it's an ongoing process. Oh, there you are again.
I think you may have mentioned earlier something about that your organisation helps people get away from mandatory vaccinations.
Yes, we
Right.
do.
I
And
think it's in our health act that if there's an outbreak or a pandemic that we can't be forced to take the vaccination.
there is that. There's the threat in the U.S. That people will be either quarantined in FEMA-style camps, or they will be forced to get the accept the injection. But actually, as I speak, there are only 45 million doses of the swine flu injection in the U.S. anyway. That's not enough to inoculate even a significant portion of the U.S. population, because you need 4 doses per person. That's 11 million people. There are 300 million plus in the U.S. So they couldn't even if they wanted to in their wildest dreams, they could do mass inoculation right now, and it'd be a while before they can. And then they're going to be hit with a financial storm next year for sure. That's going to knock the wind out of their sails as well. So even if they have the plans to do it, which they do, it's doubtful they can implement it as they wish.
I just kind of want to know, do you think that they will bring in forced vaccinations? What can we do to stop them?
Okay.
And what
That's
is
the
your...
Constitution, that's why we're fighting for no political treaty. So I just want to make a point, I have 5 children, and I've been asked to get my children vaccinated, and said no. And I've been told by a doctor in Cumberland Hospital, if you don't get your children vaccinated, you will be refused an education in school. So I said to the doctor,
You will be.
my child or children will be refused an education
lucky
in school.
them. Lucky them.
So I asked the doctor what was her name. I asked the doctor what was her name, and that what she is doing and saying is unconstitutional. She threatened me, and that's why we have to vote no in this Lisbon Treaty,
Yes,
because
so
we
true.
have a constitution. We want to hold on to that constitution for those particular reasons, for vaccinations and other issues that may be forced on us.
But it's in our constitution.
Yes. Well, to pick up on what you said and what the prior woman said, what our organization has done, and this is just applicable to the U.S., but it will give you an idea of what you can do, is within the individual states, because it's really a state matter. There's nothing written in the U.S. Constitution that authorizes the federal government to give or force mass inoculation. Nothing at all. It's totally unconstitutional, totally illegal, and it could be refused on those grounds. Having said that, within the individual states, there is some authority that they can do it, but almost all of the individual states within the United States have exemptions written into the law that you can either refuse an inoculation on religious grounds or philosophical grounds. Some states just have religious grounds, most of them have religious and or philosophical grounds. And that's what we've been working on, and that's what we've gotten in place in a lot of the US states. Now, I don't know Irish law well enough to know if you have a similar exemption, but you need to look into that, because a lot of the states, will, the state attorney generals, the other people, they won't tell you about the exemptions. So a lot of people, especially the school authorities, they talk as if they don't exist. The exemptions are there, they're written into state law, and yet they'll say to American school children's parents exactly what you were told here. And a lot of these school parents accept that because they don't realize that governments lie. You know, they lie all the time. You know, half of what they say is a lie, and the other half, it's probably a mistake. But in any event, you can't trust them, so you've got to go look at the laws yourselves or find a knowledgeable solicitor who can inform you as to what your rights actually are. It may be that it's actually already written into Irish law that there's a religious exemption or a philosophical exemption. I don't know, I'm just guessing. But you might look. Or there could be other things that don't speak expressly about exemptions, but will give you the right to argue that you have an exemption. For example, the right not to have your body invaded or something like that. You know, this. You look for that and see what you can find, and then when you find something, please let me know, because I'd like, in fact, I invite anyone in this audience for our magazine. We'd love to have articles about what's going on in Ireland, so if you write something about it, you know, just a page or something, send it our way so we can get it up on our website and print it. Also, another thing before I forget is go to our website, the www.thenhf.com, and there's a button there called vaccinations, and you can click on it for arguments and information you can use to counter the trend towards pushing you towards being vaccinated.